Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to talk to you about a new product that we're working on, continuous features. As you may have heard from Jyoti earlier today, continuous features is really a unique approach towards feature flag management. I'd like to walk you through our thinking and how we can help you build and deliver new features fast. Before I get started, we do have the chat open, so if you'd like to post any questions, we'd be happy to take them as I'm presenting. So a quick note from our lawyers. Some of the features are forward-looking and for informational purposes only. So I lead product for some of the newer areas that we're focused on here at Harness. We just launched Continuous Efficiency, which is a product that lets you manage cloud costs. And prior to joining Harness, I was working at companies like UiPath, AppDynamics, and VMware in areas like monitoring, analytics, and automation. So my team essentially focuses on building newer products and newer in new areas here at Harness. So a quick run through on what we're going to be talking about today. So the first, we'll start off with a quick review on what are feature flags, how are they used, and some of the challenges that we've encountered as we've started to use them at Harness as well, and what we've been hearing from customers on some of the challenges that they face when they think about feature velocity. And then we'll talk about like how we plan to address these challenges, and what's our unique approach towards feature flagging. And then finally, as you think about decoupling deployments and release, I'll walk you through how we can standardize some of these practices, and how the feature flags really provides you a lot of flexibility, but it's also important to have the right guardrails in place, so you can leverage the power of rolling out features fast. So what are feature flags? Many of you might already be using feature flags, and might already be familiar with the concept, but just to sort of level set, at its core, it's basically a simple if-then-else statement, right? So if you'd like to expose a feature or a functionality to a user or a segment of users, and maybe you want to do that based on certain conditions, and that could be powered by a configuration, a service, a tool. So as an example, we just announced the next generation product this morning. So you could essentially have this next generation UI that could be wrapped behind a flag and exposed only to a limited set of users. And those users could be a beta segment of users, for instance. So that way, only the beta users get served this next generation UI, while everybody else is served the current experience. Now, it's also possible in how you sort of randomize the users within a certain segment. And you can also slowly start to ramp up how these features are exposed to a larger segment of users over time. So while feature flags has a lot of benefits because it helps ship features fast, it allows one to test these features before you get them into the hands of your customers. You can feel a little more confident about its capabilities. You can have quicker feedback loops, for instance. It also helps different stakeholders in the organization sort of come together and manage the feature rollout process better. For instance, maybe your marketing team wants to run campaigns, and they want to tie these features down to specific campaigns that they want to run. Or as your product or your design team may want to test some of these features out as they're being rolled out, and feel more confident about exposing them to a wider audience. Or your release team might basically hold off on turning it on for all the users because there's still some dependencies that are in progress. So whatever your use case might be, it's important to sort of have this exposure and have this functionality being made available to all the key stakeholders in your organization. Another advantage with feature flags is that it obviates the need to have multiple branches and multiple environments, right? So you can you can use this to promote a single trunk development, which can be pretty handy because it avoids the complexity of having to integrate all of the code at a later point. So it simplifies the overall software delivery process. Now, while all that is great, what we're hearing from customers is that they would like to have a standardized release process, and they would want to have that by retaining some of the flexibility that feature management provides. So they would like to have some governance. They would like to implement certain gates, for instance, with steps that seek approvals, which has the right hooks towards ticketing systems like Jira and ServiceNow and so on. Potentially also have monitoring set up to be able to know what is the impact and what's the performance of having rolled these features out to the end users. So it's more important to have the right probes to measure the impact of these features, and really go deep in terms of understanding what nodes were impacted, what loads is it causing to the systems, and being proactive in terms of how you manage the overall rollout process. And the other thing that's also important is to have a lot more context right from the build process, right from code to artifact till the service being deployed and being rolled out eventually to your end users. So to have the overall context in terms of how the feature flag management process is actually being governed is incredibly powerful and incredibly useful to our end customers. So I just want to take a moment to reflect back on some of the challenges that we faced ourselves. So we, as a company, we've grown from a one product company to a 3-product company. So as you can imagine, we've had a lot of features, and we've had a lot of feature flags as a result. So we did build our own tool, which our devs and our QA teams had primarily access to it. But our support and our customer success teams wanted access to those tools as well. It's not just about access, but they also wanted the right exposure. For instance, they wanted only access to features that were customer facing, for instance, whereas the release teams wanted access to features that were still baking in our QA and our dev environments and weren't really ready for being rolled out more broadly to our end customers. So as we sort of think about build versus a buy decision, so let's say you have a beta feature, and your product team wants to understand its status and when it's going to be ready, and your marketing team wants to announce it, and your customer success and your support team wants to know when it can be licensed and what types of entitlements are these. Do your premium customers, for instance, have the right entitlements in place versus your other segment of customers? So all of this management essentially creates a lot more complexity as the feature starts to grow. I mean, as the number of feature flags tends to grow. You might also need to build in redundancy. For instance, you might need to have a regular sync between the between the flag configurations and what might actually be propagating these changes. And over time, as some of you may have experienced, it tends to cause a lot of technical debt and maintenance challenges as well. So it's important to sort of clean up these flags, keep them. Keep your code base fairly clean, so you don't have to deal with this at a later point. So again, we've experienced a lot of this, and these are some of the considerations that you might want to think about as you sort of evaluate a build versus a buy option. So now, having encountered all of these challenges, we did try to solve these for ourselves, but we also wanted to build something for our users. So I'm really excited to announce that we're working on continuous features, which is currently in the beta phase. And here's a quick a sneak peek of the product. Our goal is to let you deploy when you want, and also start releasing features as and when they become ready. So let's dig a little deeper into the solution. So we'll have a first-class support to a host of SDKs. We're going to support client SDKs, server-side SDKs. We're going to support SaaS as well as on-premise environments as well. So we'll have a fairly flexible deployment and a very robust support for different types of SDKs. And you will also have the ability to define different targets. So for instance, if you want to target individual users, if you want to target segments of users, you want to target regions, IPs, whatever your configuration might be, we're going to provide you the flexibility to be able to roll those out to different targets. And what's also important is to sort of track and audit every single change. So as the number of flags grow, and as the number of changes, and as the number of stakeholders in the organization grow as well, it's also important to know what change was affected by whom and at what point. So we'll also provide like auditing and governance mechanisms to keep that under check. So one of the key things that, or the key vectors that we're going to be looking at is being able to give you the right level of confidence as you start pushing these features into production. So whether you're looking at deploying them and doing that at various degrees or various levels of frequency, or if you're looking at releasing that those features as as and when those are ready, you should be able to do that with confidence, and that's going to be the key tenet that's going to be driving the development of this platform. So and having this all within a single platform where you can do deployment and you can think about delivery of these features is incredibly powerful. So for instance, think about the context that you can have right from the time the code was merged to when the artifact was built and deployed, and then you sort of started rolling out those features to the end users. So you have the entire pipeline and the entire visibility of exactly how it originated to how it reached the hands of your end customers and end users, which can be pretty powerful for your engineering teams. So while Feature Flags provides a lot of flexibility in shipping out these features with a great amount of with a great velocity, what's also important is governance. So what we mean by governance is basically, so if you want to have the right hooks in place during the feature rollouts, perhaps you want to seek approvals from key stakeholders such as the engineering managers or your release team, just to be confident that this feature is actually ready to be rolled out to your end customers. Maybe you want to connect this through a ticketing mechanism or a change management system like Jira or ServiceNow. Maybe you want to seek a certain time frame when you want to schedule when these features need to be rolled out. So whatever your use case might be, we're going to provide a single canvas in terms of having a fairly extensive library of connectors, which lets you do this rollout do this rollout very confidently. And I'm going to share with you exactly like how we're planning to do that as well. And the other thing that we hear about from our customers is to have the right probes and measure the health as the feature as the adoption of the feature starts to ramp up gradually. So you might want to assess the success of these experiments, while at the same time you might also want to more deeply assess what was the impact on the load for your server, for instance. What was the impact on the network? So we have continuous verification, which our customers have been using for a long time in the context of deployments. So we're going to extend these capabilities in the context of releases and feature rollouts as well, to give you the same level of deep level of monitoring that you can expect as you may have gotten from deployments. So let's talk about variations. At the most simplest level, variations could be a simple toggle, right? So it could be a Boolean toggle, for instance. Let's take an example of, say, an online wallet. And you might want to expose this online wallet feature for a certain segment of for a certain segment of users. So this could be a simple Boolean operation. But what if you want to test different variations of this online wallet feature? What if you want to have this feature being rolled out across different shades? Maybe you want to have this in blue or green, yellow, and see exactly what the response is, and pick a variation which tends to have the highest success in terms of usage. So if you want to have a simple Boolean option, or if you want to have a multivariate option, whatever your needs are, we're going to be supporting both use cases. Oftentimes we hear customers saying, it's important for us to have a very simple way to kick the tires on using a feature flag management solution and get started. Maybe you want to get started with a very simple Boolean option, which serves like maybe 80% of your use cases. And more importantly, have the right hooks and the right governance built in for these types of use cases. So while we support a Boolean and a multivariate use case, we want to make it very easy for you to kick the tires, get started, and really experience the platform fast. So the time to value and the ability and the overall user experience that centers that is going to be critical for us. So when we think about targets, targets could be individual users that you want to roll out these features to. It could be targets like specific IPs. It could be servers that's distributed across different regions. So whatever variation you want to serve to whatever target type, we're going to be supporting all combinations. And the approach that we're taking towards our treatment towards these targets is that we want to make targets a first-class feature in terms of how you expose these and in terms of how you control and expose these entitlements. And entitlements and in general segmenting users and segmenting targets is something that's critical as the velocity of the organization grows, as you start rolling out more and more features to understand like which segment receives what features and what entitlements are they do they have access to, and so on. So we want to be able to take all of those use cases and serve them in a first class manner. So that's something that we're investing on as well. And then these targets could be wrapped around segments. So for instance, as I mentioned earlier, your beta users could get served a next generation UI, for instance. And what's interesting about making segments and targets first class is you can also schedule how these features need to be rolled out, when they need to be rolled out, what segments of users they need to be rolled out to, and what are some of the characteristics or features of these segments of users. So workflow is a feature that I'm really excited about. This is kind of where a lot of the concepts from deployments and release and everything sort of comes together. Now, if you're dealing with release toggles, where you want to just stage your release post deployment, maybe the release and the rollout process happens to be a separate stage post deployment. It's fairly easy for you to weave these two stages together and sort of look at them in the context of was my deployment successful, and then how do I gradually roll this out to my users now that I have the features ready to be exposed in production. But if you have a long running workflow, for instance, then you can entirely decouple this from your deployment and have that stage separately. And you can just focus on adding the right hooks, like monitoring, for instance, and see how and measure the adoption of these types of features. So as you can see on the right here, we have a fairly extensive step library, which includes connectors to your change management systems like Jira, ServiceNow. We're going to have hooks to monitoring systems as well, like AppDynamics, New Relic, Splunk, and so on. So you can start assessing the adoption and the performance of these features as they start to ramp. And the last thing that I want to talk about is monitoring. So monitoring is fairly important. It's fairly critical in terms of really understanding the feedback that you get from having rolled out the features. And they could be essentially bucketed across like maybe two aspects broadly. On the one side, you want to maybe measure the success of your experiments. Maybe you want to measure you want to do a funnel analysis. You want to figure out what was the number of clicks and have different KPIs sort of centered around assessing those measures of success. And on the other side, maybe your dev teams and your release teams and your operation teams want to understand if this feature actually caused a spike in load in my system. Is my system able to handle that load? How do you automatically baseline these loads and understand what is an anomalous behavior? Maybe at a point where you start to ramp up features from 20% to 50% is when you actually see the load, and not from 0 to 20%. So those are some things that we want to be able to catch quite early. And the interesting thing about the way we look at monitoring is that we already have continuous verification that some of our customers have been using in the context of deployments, both pre-deployment and post-deployment, and also on an ongoing basis through our 24/7 service card. So we want to expose that functionality and those capabilities to be able to bring in some of these hooks from your favorite monitoring tools and your favorite log management tools, and show you exactly what was the impact of having rolled that feature out. So that's the monitoring, staging deployments, connecting it to different tools potentially. All of this comes together it could come together in a single pipeline, which can allow you the flexibility of either deploying or releasing, or potentially combining the two and having to sort of standardize some of these processes across your team with the right level of governance. So we will be we'll be releasing continuous features in beta early next year. So we've already started to engage with some early customers, got some great feedback. So if you're interested in learning more, please reach out, and we'd be happy to work with you and assess your incorporate some of your needs as well as we start as we are sort of building this feature out. Thank you for listening, and appreciate your time.